Okay, people, it is happening. Episode 31, which is actually my favorite number. I don't know, when did that become my favorite number? I think it was, after my brother and sister died, I added their two favorite numbers up, 7 and 24. And I was like, you know what? That's my favorite number now. I've never had a favorite number before then, but I decided to have one then. So there you have it. Episode 31 of Room 9 is coming at you. But before we get into this episode with Matthew Oliver, yes, I know, Matt's on the podcast again. He has become a regular guest. I just love my conversations with him. But before we get into it, room9podcast.com/contact. That'll bring you to a contact page, a form, I should say, to fill out. And that means you can get all the details of what is happening at Room 9 emailed to you. So you should do that. And that helps me know how many regular listeners I have, because I assume if you fill out a contact page, you are probably a regular listener of Room 9. There's also on that website, room9podcast.com/support. That way you can help Room 9 and share and spread the message that we are trying to get out there to not only Western New York, to the whole world, and as many people as want to listen. We want you to listen, and we want you to be able to listen. So in order to keep things going and keep things moving and push the message out there, it costs some kind of money, and that would be greatly appreciated if you are a regular listener and want to help support. If not, if you don't have the finances to do that, it would be awesome for you just to share and keep spreading this all over the internet and get it all over the place, because lives are changing because of it. And this is only getting bigger. Room 9 is officially Room 9. I went down to the county clerks, as I told you last week, and filed and got the DBA. And there's about to be a business bank account open up, which is still going to be mainly run by Christine Glavy, my wonderful BFF, who is in charge of everything and overseeing every penny that comes in and out of Room 9. So in order for me to access this money and spend any of this money, she has to know about it, and she has to allow me to get to it. So that is that. There's also a letter to people who donate if you go on the support page on our website, and that explains a lot of how we're doing it, how I am held accountable, and how money is getting spent. Other than that, I am still currently working on a business plan to bring to the board at Access VR to try to get some money to keep pushing this business forward. So that is something that isn't lined up an exact date yet. Once I finish the business plan, I will be contacting them again, and we'll be doing that. And it is getting warm out in Buffalo. That is awesome. In fact, this recording, you can hear birds chirping in the background. I had the window open. And at first I was like, should I close the window? Should I not? But I think it gives it a cool ambient sound. Ambience. It gives it cool ambience. I don't know. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. But it's awesome to hear the birds in the background. Once again, though, I think you do hear some people talking in the house outside the door. And that's just one of the biggest negatives right now that I have, because I do not have a nice, quiet recording studio to do every episode thus far. But one day we will get there, and I cannot wait for that. I also wanted to tell you guys to email us here at Room 9. Our email is room9podcast@gmail.com. And if you send us an email, I want to hear what you guys want, topics you want to hear, or if you have a guest in mind that you would love to hear and for me to try to get on the show, that would be awesome. I actually am at the point right now where people are starting to slowly reach out to me and want to promote their company or promote their services and whatever that is. And that's starting to happen, which makes me friggin' humbled and appreciative of how awesome everybody is for listening, and how awesome everybody is for supporting and just helping out and just showing interest in this podcast and company in general. So that's about it. I had an interesting week. Had a blowout with a friend over what exactly I'm still kind of confused at, but it happens. I don't know. Things change. I've been super busy, so I obviously have not been able to be there on people's beck and call when they need me or when they want to hang out. So I don't know. It just, I have come to the realization too that as you grow and as you just start working hard in life, you are going to have people who are going to hate on you. So be aware of that. But that being said, there's something about hard work that pays off. and I mentioned this quote towards the end of this coming up episode that I don't know if it was a philosopher or somebody just said it. The harder I work, the luckier I got. Because when you start working your ass off and you find something you want to do where you put everything into it, it is a beautiful thing. So yeah, you have something you found that you love to do, work your ass off at it, no matter what, and it will work out. So other than that, I don't think I have anything else. I think I'm going to let you guys get on and listen to this episode now. As always, I love y'all. I love y'all. And you guys are the best for listening and for all your support and all your comments and all your love that is being thrown this way is greatly appreciative. Room 9, episode 31. Hope you guys enjoy it with Matthew Oliver. We talk a little bit about actually finding stuff that you love to do, and we also talk about mainly Oxford houses, because Matt had some trouble with an Oxford house, and he is now in my Oxford house, or the Oxford house that I stay in. It's not technically my Oxford house, but he's living in it, so we discussed that, the pros and cons of it, how it's helped us both, and, maybe some things that could be changed in him. But here it is, episode 31, Room 9 podcast. Peace.
Wait a minute. You're Sean Cunningham. That's right. How you gonna know? You're Sean Cunningham. Stop asking fucking questions. That's right. Yeah. You better believe it. Oh, you better believe it. That's right. Come on. You're Sean Cunningham. That's right. That's right. Oh, you better believe it. Wait a minute.
I wish they would remake it.
Yeah.
Hollywood is so much better today than it was, while still somehow being horrible.
Why still somehow being terrible.
Totally terrible, as I like to say.
Oh, that's right.
All right, so what are we going to get into here? Room 9 coming at
Oh,
you.
yeah, doing some Room 9 action here. Matthew Oliver. We're allowed to use that name still, correct?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
use it. We can use it up. The newest member of Trowbridge Oxford House.
You are officially part of the bridge. That is correct. That is
Seems like a
exciting
great
news.
place. Seems like a real nice place. I was homeless for about 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would like to use the word transient.
Yes, that sounds much better than homeless. That does.
Really?
Yeah, of course. Sounds
Okay.
fancy.
Right.
It's like a rich homeless person. If that makes any sense.
I'm not homeless, I'm transient. Oh, come right in, sir. We will serve you at this high-end coffee
yes,
bar.
please.
Okay, back to it. Here we go. Take 2.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, so anyway.
All right, back to what we were talking about.
So you got booted out of your Oxford house.
Right, you got booted right out.
So this is Oxford House, Western New York group.
Chapter 4.
Chapter 4, which is mainly South Buffalo.
Sobo,
New
as I
York.
like to call it.
Sobo. Oxford House is interesting.
It's helpful.
They claim to be like this big proponent of helping recoveries, and they claim that if you stay here for like 16 or is it 18 months,
Yep.
you have a higher chance of not relapsing.
Right.
What I tend to find is the majority of the houses are about money.
You know, it's funny you say that because I was just thinking about something an outreach worker once told me. And they said, so what if the owner of Oxford House Buffalo is just in it for the money? You still have Oxford House.
But
which is an interesting view.
I'm fine. It's not, you know what, the owners. I don't have the owners. I feel like could be more, and I feel like the owners, in particular, the one who owns about 5 or 6 houses in South Buffalo, I feel like he puts on this facade and this persona of he's all about Oxford and wants to help. I think he's just about the money, but that put aside, I don't really care. It's when you get the individual houses.
Okay, so you're going that route.
Yeah, and I think, you know, maybe even the outreach worker of Chapter 4.
We're
I
not
think
using
he's
any
all
names.
about the money.
We're not using any names, but I know where you're coming from. I think subconsciously, it's very easy to, especially having been in the treasurer spot in the past, subconsciously your mind just kind of takes on that role of like, I have to make sure that this house is financially stable. So what's the best way for me to do that? One of the good ways to do that would be to accept higher risk individuals, take the bed fee and wait for a relapse, right? And then you just keep that. So you're getting paid $150 for 2 days worth of stay.
Yeah, so how it works. So if you move in in the middle of the month, you have to give a $150 bed fee no matter what when you move in. That holds your bed for 30 days. Or I should say before you move in, you have to give a $150 bed fee. That's non-refundable.
Non-refundable.
So you give it and decide not to come, you don't get it back. You move in at the middle of the month, you get prorated $11 per day. So after that, every month, it's in my house, it ranges between $335 to $350. My house is $335. That includes electric, gas. We buy coffee. We buy cleaning supplies with that, and like
buy laundry
paper
soap?
products, laundry detergent. Yes.
Let me ask you this about the first month. Do you always just say you owe $500 and then prorate the second month?
What do you mean?
So on move-in day, I give you $500. Boom. Let's say today's June 12th, right?
Okay.
I owe you $500. July 1st rolls around. We prorate July. That doesn't make any sense, right?
No, I don't
That's
even
how Stevenson
understand
does
that.
it.
Yeah. Well, you would move in, like if you moved in right now, today, $11 a day, $242.
Right. That was some quick math.
I already figured out earlier. I'm terrible at math.
So anyway, what Stevenson would do is say, okay, we want the $500 right now.
Where does this
and then
$500?
July,
What
that's
is
for a
that?
full month's rent. $350
Okay.
and then the $150, right? So then in July, you owe us $244.
Yeah, that's stupid.
It's a quick way to get the $500 up front.
They want money.
Yeah.
And that's what I said.
And
It's
I
all
was
about money.
told that that's how every house does it. And
No.
it's like, that makes zero sense. We've even had a couple of people like paying for, let's say, a mother paying for their son's stay. That doesn't make any sense. Why would you prorate the second month? They're going to be here all month. And you don't do that with DSS.
No.
DSS prorates the first month. I don't understand why they do that. It's backwards.
Well, that goes back to our original point that
The
most
money.
houses are just about getting the most money out of people, not helping them.
Right. And on that note, the helping people note, it is, I think, meant to be at the end. I think the best way to utilize an Oxford house is after you go through detox, inpatient, long-term, the whole gamut of help that's out there. If you really want to do a rehab thing, right? Oxford house would be after like your halfway house, maybe even after your supportive living. I think it could be like interchangeable with supportive living. However, officially to move into an Oxford house, you have to have 1 single day clean. That's their official stance.
Yes.
Which makes it rough because you get someone with 1 day clean, right? They might have the best intentions, but you have so much brain chemistry going on over that first 90 days even. It's really over the first year you got a ton of brain chemistry happening. Your brain's trying to repair itself. It's trying to get back to a place where all of those different chemicals that I don't really understand a lot about are trying to rebalance. Let's say day one, right? You come into an Oxford house. Today's my second day clean. Now I've got to follow curfew. There's other rules. I got to do my chore. I can't have people over. I can't spend the night out. But I'm living in an environment that looks a lot like I just am renting an apartment with roommate. For someone whose mind is still very much in early recovery, that's difficult.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, we encourage people coming from long term, even when people are coming here from just a 30-day. During the house interview, we grill them about why they're not going to long term.
Yeah, and I guess if somebody is I don't know how to put this, like a mild user, you know what I mean? Not someone who was like, oh, I just spent the last 7 years banging dope under a bridge, as opposed to, oh, I was a functioning, air quotes, addict who, you know, had developed a life and still had a job and maybe still have that job. And I can only do 30 days because I'm trying to keep my job and get back on my feet. That would be someone that I would probably take. But if you got somebody who comes in and they're like, yeah, I just finished 28 days, but my history is that of someone who my just fourth time. Yeah. Hardcore user. I just don't want to do long term. It seems to me like a shortcut. And I think that houses, whether subconsciously or purposely, take people who are high risk because it's a quick way to earn a buck. And it's not ethical.
No, it's not. No, it's messed up. I mean, even for instance, our outreach worker, for instance,
great guy,
would have said to me, so we just kicked out a guy. He lasted 6 days. And again, we took him off the street. He was not come from a rehab.
Right.
He pissed clean. I think he started drinking as soon as he got in here.
Oh, really?
He broke 3 rules within 6 weeks, or 6 days, I'm sorry.
Right.
3 rules in 6 days. We kicked him out. I could have kept him until Friday when he paid his rent.
Right.
Kept half of that and then kicked him out.
Yeah, that's the other part of it. It's really set up to just get money from people. Like the rules are set up to make it easy to hold on to people's money.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's just a lot anywhere else but New York too. And I don't know if you know this, but they do weekly rent.
That's right.
So rent, or ESS or whatever it's called. What is that?
Equal expense share.
Right. So ESS is due at house meetings.
And you pay it every week.
You pay it every week. I think that is fantastic because you are not bound by any lease in Oxford House. Let's make that clear. At any time, you can be voted out under suspicion of use for literally any reason. A house can say, okay, you have 45 minutes to pack your things. Now, I think if you're not using, technically in the rules, they say you can stay overnight. So you have 1 day, let's say at most, to pack up your things and leave. Being that that's the case, I think a weekly rent, a weekly ESS where rent comes every week and is collected at the house meetings, that makes the most sense with the way that, because it can end so quickly. And then if everybody, that way houses don't have to be like, okay, we're giving you grace to pay weekly. It just is what it is. And then if someone comes to a house meeting and doesn't have rent, it's like, maybe you give them 1 week, maybe. And then at that point, the houses aren't letting people live there for free, because I think I saw on the Oxford House website that happened to a house where somebody kept getting grace and then they bailed, and
it happens all the time.
Yeah, live here for free for a month or whatever till you find a place and save your money and just go to the house meeting and say, sorry guys, I don't have it.
And that's the problem, I think, too. It comes, and I see why they don't like people on social services that are here as well. Yeah. But it's tough because so many of us are coming from a spot where we don't have anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't have anything. We've been out of work for 4 or 5 months because, or we go from jail to short term to long term, then to Oxford House, and we don't have any money.
Yeah.
We didn't have any money to begin with, even when we got arrested, because we've been in the grind.
Yeah.
So it's, it's tough not to accept that because, we had a guy. Yeah, I got to get my ESS. They're going to pay for it. They're going to get us, they'll send it back. Just let me get it switched over. And it was 4 or 5 weeks into it. His DSS didn't come yet. He relapsed, got kicked out, and then we were stuck.
Right.
He lived here for a full month.
For a month, right. And I think the way that it's set up perpetuates that, because it's set up so that if everything goes right, Oxford House is on the gaining end. It's almost easy because it's easy for people to do that, because you get to a house meeting and it's like, who's gonna really be like, nope, sorry, we aren't giving you grace? Usually a house, anytime I've been in it,
will help out.
We'll just be like, okay, yeah, we'll give you a week, or at the next house meeting you have to bring us something. And I don't know, I think weekly ESS would be better. And from what I've been informed, that's everywhere else but New York. And New York State's different too, with like the whole outreach workers thing. Usually in other states, like they're paid by social services, like they get a stipend or a salary.
And they get something more, yeah.
But New York State, not because of governing body that oversees treatment. What's the name of that place? Oasis. Right, so they would want their hand in Oxford House, and I wouldn't want that either. I hate the New York nanny state anyways. The less rule of law, the better, in my opinion. But anyway, that's a whole nother podcast. We could go into a whole thing on that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, bottom line, you need a better place.
I know.
You need a better studio.
I said that the intro of the last podcast.
Yeah,
I was like, come on, I just can't wait to have my own silent, quiet room where I don't have a bunch of numbskulls running around shouting.
Here's a crazy idea. Did you know the library has a studio?
What do you mean?
The library downtown Buffalo has a recording studio where you could go without any equipment and record, but you can bring your own. You should book that.
That you can just use? Yeah. You don't got to pay for it? You just book it?
It's like everything else at the library. It's free.
Oh my God, I got to look into that.
You should look into it. And the other thing you should look into is there's a lot of rentable spaces like that.
Yeah, I wonder how much it'll cost. It's not like I'm making a fortune doing this where I have like...
Right now, the library might be your best bet, but in the future, as this gains steam, I would look into the library, bro. You can literally show up there like with a guitar and record.
I did not
your
know
manifesto.
that. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that.
Yeah, I'm going to record my manifesto soon there.
So yes, Oxford House, financially, I feel they're encouraged to run more based on finance and gain money than lose money, or than help people, I should say.
Yeah, and it becomes a money grab. And like I said, it may in most cases be subconscious and not, it's just perpetuated by the rules. Mm-hmm. And I don't know of any like discussion being held at any chapter meeting, and I don't think they would be open to any discussion about that, because you would really have to have a seat at the table as far as like the outreach workers and the owners. Like those are the only people that are going to change those rules.
Yeah,
those are not rules that you could change as a house. I know typically houses are supposed to be autonomous, and for the most part they are, although I have seen outreach go in and clear houses out, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, that's well, because sometimes you do, though. You
get people
a whole
using
house that is like bombarded with relapse.
Right, and that's, I mean, I get the reasoning behind 45-minute rule, because you get someone who actually relapses, let's say, and let's say it's me, right, and you're one of my good friends in the house, and you come to me and you're like, you tox me, and it's like, oh, you're dirty. Well, maybe you were having a weird, rough day, and you think, oh man, Matt's probably got dope on him. It was very easy for you to be like, you know what, let's forget about this tox, just hook me up. Boom, right there. It's spreading like wildfire.
It's like a virus.
It is. And that's why it needs to be taken care of like a cancer and just cut out. However, and I know you had said that you guys help people find treatment if you want it. I think it needs to be more of a organized process. Like, let's say, for example, we have someone who relapses, and the protocol is you confront that person, you give them the 45 minutes. During that 45 minutes, outreach is called. They are, without asking the person, because like you said, people say no. People aren't ready in that moment. But without asking the person, outreach is looking for a bed, and then you come to that person and say, listen, you have to be out of here in 45 minutes. This is where you can go. That's your option. You may have already made a plan, but this is a safe place that you can go and receive treatment.
Yeah, and I mean, that would be awesome.
I don't think that Oxford House is connected like that.
No, they're not. And that's why when that dude Brian that we kicked out who relapsed, I offered him to call Save the Michaels is a group in there, Western New York, that literally their main focus, the biggest thing they do is get people's beds, because the founder son killed himself going through withdrawal and waiting for a bed. He could not find a bed anywhere. So his dad ended up starting the company and was like, I find people bed. They drove me out by New York City.
Right. I've heard they drive a lot of people.
So they'll drive anywhere in New York State
and
drop
then
people off.
That's where, we ended up meeting, right? Was out at the village after that. So they are obviously connected. So I think Oxford House, Western New York, is that the official?
Yes.
Anyway, I think they could do a lot more or make a better effort to be ready, because dealing with who you're dealing with, you're going to have that on a weekly basis, like no exception.
You are. Yeah.
You've got probably, I don't know, how many people would you say are in Oxford House, Western New York? There's like
Let's
20
just
houses.
say 10 apiece, just
So roughly
rounded.
200
Yeah.
guys.
Yep.
You're going to have relapses on a weekly basis. And knowing that, you need to be more prepared.
And sometimes whole houses.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said, sometimes they got to go and clear the houses. My problem is I feel like the outreach workers here encourage to do the money thing more than the help thing.
Yeah, well, because that's how they're getting paid. So it's kind of the whole. Another example of this happening would be like Wall Street investors. They're being incentivized to sell you the company's, preferred stock or whatever. That might not be the best thing for you, but it's the best way for them to get a bonus. You know, so it's the same idea. I'm not saying that they're being incentivized to do that, but I think when I'm getting paid by the houses paying their rent, then I'm gonna make sure the houses pay their rent. And what's the best way to do that? Make sure the houses collect money.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think you just end up ripping people off and hurting people more. A lot of times.
There's a lot of people out there. I know people who will not do Oxford House out of treatment, and that's not great because sometimes there's no other option. Sometimes the waiting list for supportive living is 90 days, and you can't sit in long term
for that long
waiting for a bed. Because maybe it works out perfectly to where I go to residential for 90 days, and then boom, I'm first on the list for supportive living, and when I'm ready, and the bed's ready at supportive living. But that's not always the case. I mean, how many people at the Village did you see leave because their insurance cut them off and they didn't have their preferred plan?
Which that's so effed up, dude.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing.
The
whole
insurance company become
goodness.
clinicians and decide when you don't need rehab any longer because they don't want to pay it.
And the other, I mean, even with the medication too, with the MAT, that happens a lot. Like my doctor wants to prescribe me Suboxone, but my insurance company tells them to prescribe me Zubsolv. Like that's not the same medication. It's a totally different medication. And why is it? Yeah, I get that insurance companies have doctors, but they never met me. They haven't talked to me.
They have no idea.
They don't know what's going on with my case. My doctor does, and my doctor tells them that, and then they recommend something else. Like that's a whole other thing. I could just go into
that is a rabbit hole from the pharmaceutical companies all the way down to everything. It's insane. So we're not going to touch that. That's like a year worth of episodes.
It really is. It could be. We could do a docu-series.
Yeah, pretty much we could.
We will.
Yeah,
coming soon.
Yeah, it's messed up, the whole thing. No, I always take it back to this because just like rehabs, no matter, you can be in the crappiest rehab, you can be in the shittiest rehab, you can be in the crappiest Oxford House, you can be in the best Oxford House, whatever. You can get what you want out of it.
Oh, absolutely.
And because I don't want to sit here and keep bashing Oxford House the whole time because I have learned a lot. I've worked on my assertiveness. I've worked on so much.
Absolutely.
Just things I have to know. I have to relax because not everybody's going to put a coffee cup back in with the handle facing 90 degrees every time. Like they're just not going to do that. You have to calm down.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things I've had to learn as far as that is concerned.
Yeah, and I will say, as far as outreach goes, when Oxford House came out to the Village and did an outreach presentation, I remember listening to the current outreach worker of Oxford House and thinking, just listening to his story and what he went through, essentially feeling the same way that I was feeling at the current moment is what he described. And then he was saying, and then I went to Oxford House, and that's what got me back on my feet. It taught me how to, live again, how to pay my bills again, how to get a job. It taught me all of those things. And for me, that really did give me a little bit of hope. Just listening to his story and being like, you know what? I feel that way right now. Like when I was in rehab, dude, it was all I could do to just get out of bed and go to groups. Like I hated it so much. I still hated my life. I was still, up until the last probably 3 or 4 weeks, I was so depressed. And then I hit a turning point. I think it was really actually after you left. I was right around the time you left maybe, but I hit a turning point. And there were a couple things that I had done, but that was one of them, was hearing that guy come in and speak and thinking, okay, because I had no prospects, man. I was like 30 whatever years old. I had no prospects for work. I had nowhere to live. Like my parents weren't going to take me in again. Like, and at 30 years old, you shouldn't be living with your parents, let's be honest. So I had nothing. And for me to go, in my mind in that moment, to go from living where everything's taken care of for you at the Village to, okay, now I have to live my life again, seemed like an impossible transition. And Oxford House for me was perfect because I'm not disabled in any way. I'm able to work. as long as my head is screwed on straight and I'm not using. For me, Oxford House was the perfect thing to go from residential rehab and transition to something before going to just living on my own again.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
No, it is. It's a beautiful thing. It can be. And I mean, I don't know. I got so much out of rehab.
Yeah.
I did. And even jail. I learned so much about myself in jail. I had some of the biggest psychological breakthroughs ever.
Wow.
Where there was a switch that was flipped.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember that so vividly, laying in this, in the Buffalo Holding Center, laying in there by myself, because you have like 12 hours, half the day you're alone in isolation. And I just remember laying there and feeling just sorry for myself, feeling like a piece of shit, feeling guilty, feeling shame, feeling all these things. And I remember it. So I remember I could see it in my head. I'm laying there with my eyes closed and I just see this fork in the road. And if I go this way, if I go to the left, I will continue down in this world of self-pity. Life's unfair. I was dealt a bad hand. I'm going to be alone. I'm going to keep using. I'm going to be under a bridge and homeless and teethless and just everything else that comes with your stereotypical looking drug addict. Or I can go down the right way and I can figure this out. I can learn to love myself and forgive myself and accept myself and develop this confidence and become, vulnerable and all these amazing things. And I just made a decision and that was it. I was like, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to live a pathetic, nihilistic life anymore.
Yeah, it's very easy to fall into nihilism.
Oh my gosh,
Use
self-pity
perpetuates
is so
it.
crazy, man.
Absolutely.
Self-pity. Everybody any issue you have, when you start like bitching about it and complaining about it, that's self-pity.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. And I'm not saying I don't ever get stuck in it or find myself in it, because we all do. It happens. But I've just developed such a habit of stop. What are you doing? How are you going to solve this problem?
Right.
What are you going to learn from it? How are you going to solve it and fix it?
Yeah, and that's, I think, where you start to grow.
Yeah, and it's crazy. And then now all of a sudden, like, I just have this constant motivation and, I'm just determined to fucking do this and live life and enjoy the shit out of it and be successful at it and do something I love the rest of my life.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're using and you're in that, your mind is so clouded by how do I get high again? Because when you're high, like in reality, nothing is really that great. Like your life is shit, right?
Yeah.
But when you're high, everything's just golden. Like,
everything seems perfect.
Right. You're literally like living in your car and you get high and you're like, man, this is a great car. I love it.
I'm
in
so
this
lucky.
Burger King parking lot.
Oh, man.
It's just, then when you come down, it's just a natural place for your mind to go. It's that self-pity. I think
the dark.
as far as learning things in rehab too, like there was stuff that I learned in rehab that I was like, in the moment, I'm like, there's no way, like, yeah, this is all fine and good, but there's no way I'm using this in the real world. And I have, like, the whole mindfulness thing is just kind of something that I latched onto. Because, there's a couple different ways to go as far as what you're offered in treatment. AA, NA, mindfulness.
Yeah, the Village did a great job.
Right, they give you so many options, DBT, CBT, all that stuff, and different ones make sense to different people. And for me, it was the DBT with mindfulness. And so that's what I latched onto, and I find myself using those techniques and those coping skills on a daily basis. And it's so subtle that I don't think many people don't catch on to it when you're using these skills, but some people will, and like people will notice that I'm like sighing, but really I'm just doing deep breathing exercises in the moment, stuff like that. Like, you will learn stuff in rehab, just like in Oxford House. There is things for you to learn, and there is a lot of benefit that can come out of it. I just think there is something that can be done, and I think you have to agree as a house, let's make this a good place to live and recover. Let's keep in mind that that's why we're all here. Our common bond is that we're all trying to get better. There's going to be bumps in the road. There's going to be personalities that butt heads. Anytime you put 9 people together in a house, it's going to be road rules versus
The real world.
the real world back on MTV. Like, that's going to happen. You're going to get into this mentality of like you're voted off of the island.
You absolutely are. And I've had to, because this is a great transition to what else I want to talk about Oxford House, is how it can become almost a totalitarian state. and people can get, certain people on their sides, because basically the majority of the house rules.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so if you don't like somebody, you can get them kicked out.
Oh, absolutely.
You can find a way to get them kicked out. And
you don't even have to be that intelligent.
that is one thing that I have made sure, being a president of a house, and even before I was the president, to make sure I never do.
Right.
I've always checked myself with that. There's been so many people who made me want to pull my hair out and like punch them in the face and like just, I can't stand being around, like where I would shriek knowing they're home when I come home, like, oh, please don't be home, please don't be home. There's been a handful of people like that in this house.
Yeah.
And I have treated them completely fairly.
Right. You have to check yourself, I think, actively and think about, this person may annoy me, but there are people that they have in their lives who love them, and they have people that they love, and that's what we're trying to get back to, is all of us being back on, the straight and narrow, if you will, and being surrounded by those that we love, because we're not going to be in an Oxford house forever. That's another thing to keep in mind.
I hope not. You could be, but don't.
Yeah, you can. I think there's people that have been in Oxford houses for years, but I feel like you will get stalled out on the growth aspect at some
Absolutely.
point.
Yeah.
Because you got to move on. You've got to get yourself together and be at a place where I'm clean, not just because the house might tox me. I'm clean because my life clean is better than my life using, and I know that. I think I've gotten myself back to that point, and I remind myself daily like how lucky I am to have a career that I have, to be with the person that I'm with, just different things in my life the way it is right now. Even when before I relapsed this last time, much happier now than I was even with a few years clean before, So I think Horizon and Oxford House have done wonders for me.
Great job. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, you came from a house basically that kicked you out because you didn't allow the president to run things the way he wanted to run them. And a lot of people who become president of houses think it's like a communist state where everything they say says and goes. And I remind people almost every house meeting here, what do you guys think? You have an opinion.
right.
Like you can say yes to this, you can say no to this, you can share your thoughts on it.
We could do something totally different.
Yes.
Yeah, the president literally is just here to run the house meetings.
Yeah, there's no benefits to being a president.
No, it
'cause
shouldn't be.
Everybody comes to you with their problems. That's really mainly all you get.
Right. And so you are like a contact point for the house to be like, hey, this is happening. How do we handle it? But you still have one single vote. Your vote means as much as my vote.
As much as somebody who's been in here,
yeah.
for 2.5 days.
Right.
And that's something I constantly like bombard my fellow housemates with
Yeah.
because they just, whatever. I don't know. It's like, no, you have to voice your opinion.
Right. If this is something that you don't want happening, then
What do you guys think? What do you want to know? What do you want to do? How do you want to spend our money? We all have to agree on this.
Because you might have a great idea, but realistically, you got 9 guys. There's a chance that maybe someone has a better idea. Maybe not, but having a sounding board of multiple people is always better
super
than
beneficial.
being alone. Absolutely.
Super beneficial. And it's crazy how many houses start thinking that they run the house. The presidents think they run the house.
Yeah, usually you'll get like the president and then a right-hand man, if you will, who are just kind of like, okay, we're going to do this. And what happened at the last house I was at a lot was the whole cloak and dagger, like let's round a couple people up behind this person's back and see what we can get going and steamroll them out of the house. It's happened with multiple people.
Yeah, and it's
It was kind
up.
of like one of those things like when's it my turn? And I'm glad to be away from it because it's a stressful way to live, man.
It is.
Just constantly like, today I come home, is this the day they're going to sit me down and kick me out? Oh, good, I get to sleep here another night. That's fucking stressful. So.
And it's crazy because you're messing with somebody's recovery.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like somebody's sobriety.
That's what's been, I think, totally lost sight of. The fact that you have in your hands somebody's life.
Yeah.
And if they literally, like, this person could decide based on what you have done, now I'm in a situation where, fuck it, I have no reason to stay sober.
Yep.
I'm homeless, might as well get high, and maybe that's the last shot I take and I'm dead.
And you don't even have any family in Buffalo. So this could have easily been a case with you living on the streets.
Which, to be honest, I didn't really keep my parents in the loop that well. I probably should have. Like, I let them know that I was, like, moving to a new house, because I knew that, like, I could probably get into here here if there was openings, and I knew that I could get into another house just based on the situation. I didn't use, so I knew that I was still eligible to live in another house.
The issue was, though, there was no
openings.
At that time. There was. We just got 3 people in
which I
within
got
a week
lucky,
and a half.
Fortunately,
And unfortunately, but fortunately, this guy was an idiot and couldn't follow any rules and relapsed as well in 6 days.
Yeah. So, and that happens, but I think I was in a case of being very fortunate, and that's not everybody.
No, it's not. A lot of people get kicked out and have nowhere to go.
Yeah, and I think at Stevenson, it's a very terrible record of people who leave the house relapsing.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like that house goes through people.
Yeah, they can't keep
like
it
crazy.
Full,
no,
which is a problem for the house. It's just money wise. So then that perpetuates the whole thing of like, shit, we only have 6 people here paying $350 when we plan based on our budget to have 9 people paying $350. We're gonna be pretty skimpy on funds.
Skimmy on cash.
So
yeah, it's one of those things on paper sounds great, but there's so many issues.
Yeah,
when you have people who can't think objectively.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of sheep. There's so many sheeple out there.
Yeah, there's so many.
I think 95% of the world. That's an actual statistic.
I'm sure you have very few actual leaders.
Mm-hmm. Which is
good. People
who
will stand up for what's right, and
right.
That's true. I mean, you need that, but
at the same time, you got to have people who are like willing to have a backbone. I just can't have sympathy for people who won't advocate for themselves.
It's tough. I mean, I get it, but it's tough, especially when somebody has such an awesome heart.
Yeah.
And they're so just soft and just will let people walk all over them. And it's something, there's a guy here that I just love him. He's just the most gentle, tender dude. And I have to yell at him all the time. You got to say no, man. You can't keep saying yes. You're gonna just kill yourself.
Absolutely.
You cannot say yes to everybody and everything. You have to learn to say no and tell people when you have an issue with them. And so I've been trying to work with him. Like even yesterday, there was a group text. A dude wanted to miss the house meeting, and he texted me separately. How did he not know the house meeting was this? Because I was like, dude, send it in the group text. Send it in there. Right. And ask them. You're allowed to ask them. It's fine. It's if somebody gets upset and defensive, usually that means they're up to something anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Which was a great example with my good buddy. I guess he broke up with me, my former good buddy, the other day. When just like, you owe me this. And then he got mad because I was asking for it because I needed it. So it's just, that's how people are. Usually when they get defensive, it's because they're guilty of something.
Absolutely. And I think if you bring something like that to someone, like, why exactly are you asking to miss a house meeting? It's easy to be put in a position of like, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you by asking. You know what I mean? Like people get... As soon as someone gets defensive, then you start to backpedal and you're like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. I think in life... Just in general, when you're bringing something to somebody, if you do it in a way that is assertive and not forceful, you should have no problem with just standing by that remark. Now, if you say something ridiculous and insensitive or something like that, then yeah, you need to backpedal. But again, if you're just being assertive and you're asking a question that needs to be asked of this person or this entity, there's no reason for you to be weak about it or squeamish and I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. If they get defensive and it hurts their feelings or whatever, it's probably because you hit on a nerve and they know they're doing something wrong.
Most of the time, that's definitely the case.
Absolutely.
It definitely is. But like I said, this house, Oxford House, has really helped me grow in my assertiveness.
It is one of the foremost necessary pieces of good communication.
Yes, especially of surviving in an Oxford house if you don't do that.
Positively, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. In general, I guess Oxford,
good thing.
Absolutely. Obviously, I've been living in one for quite a few months.
Right. I think it can be looked at as a tool where how it's used is the most important part of the tool. So it can be used in a negative way to take advantage of people. And at the same time, you can be on that other end of being taken advantage of. But I think if you keep in mind why you're here, and everyone in the house keeps that in mind, and you remain, an advocate for yourself and assertive, I think it can be used as a fantastic tool to transition from long-term rehabilitation into a place where you're living on your own again and you're self-supporting.
Yeah, you start learning how to pay bills, you start getting a job, you start doing all that jazz.
Mm-hmm. Start getting a girlfriend or boyfriend.
Or whatever.
Whatever you're
like
into.
there. Whatever floats your boat.
It's accepted now.
Oh, man. It is totally accepted. So another thing now, switching gears,
Oh,
since
let's
we're done
switch
with since we're done
gears.
with Oxford House, I'm very thankful for Oxford Houses.
Yes, absolutely.
As annoying and as frustrating as many flaws there are in it, it's like any other democratic state or republic state. It's like it's the best form, but still a lot of flaws in it.
Absolutely.
What I want to do, there's something I have noticed, and it's just talked about a lot throughout life. As you start becoming successful, so many people start hating on you for no reason.
Oh, man.
And I have noticed that with so many of my friends, in quotes, and so many people around me that all of a sudden I have and not that I'm even successful, but I think people see my determination and my motivation.
Oh, you're on a path of success.
And I think people see that, and I find you've changed, man. You've changed. For instance, this friend I just had, flip out on me about, me asking and saying, hey, I need this, and all his reasons for being upset. I mean, I haven't changed what I've done. I've gotten busier. I mean, and that happens. And because I'm trying to start a business, and I have seen so many people start hating and it's almost like a jealous, envious thing.
I think so.
That happens in people, and then they start looking at you differently.
Yeah, and like you said, it becomes a time suck. So where you in the past had plenty of time and didn't have as much going on, so you were able to, I guess, contribute more to the friendship if you want, just on a time scale. Now all of a sudden your time's being taken up with interviewing people and working on your business plan and just editing. Because now that you know more about editing, it's probably a little more difficult and time consuming to get yourself to a product that you now feel comfortable putting out there.
That I want. Yep.
So yeah, it's a jealous envy, I think, and then at the same time, it is just not being able to commit the time, and then that being perceived as you've changed. Well, yeah, you have. People are fluid. We change all the
Constantly.
time. And just, people don't like change, though. It's funny that one thing that we know is going to happen, change, people are so uncomfortable
We hate it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, we hate it. And it's been amazing to me to see that, in this particular person. I mean, and maybe a lot of it has to do with I would pick him up and take him everywhere. We'd go to meetings a few times a week. And I mean, as I started working 2 part-time jobs and then doing obviously the Room 9 thing.
Yeah.
That has definitely fell backwards. I would,
absolutely.
pick him up, drive him to inpatient or outpatient, I should say, and do lots of things like that. And it was just funny to start seeing I don't know where it came from. It just started, about a month or so ago, 2 months ago, in these random flip outs and all sorts of things. So I haven't been able to put my finger on it, but I mean, I've seen it in other people as well, that they just kind of will hate on you. I've had people get on social media and I'm gonna tell everybody you're a fraud and don't even listen to this podcast. And it's just very humorous to see. I've realized that if everybody likes you in life and you get along with everybody, that you need to fix something.
Yeah, you're not getting what you want.
There's something
I guarantee
wrong.
you that. If everybody likes you and everyone's okay with you, it's probably because they're all using you.
Yeah. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, if everybody is just, you don't have any issues with anybody, I feel like that's not a good thing.
Yeah. And so when I went into rehab, you know how they have you identify patterns of behavior, right? One of my biggest patterns was that I will get into a job. It'll just be whatever is the highest paying job that I can get at that moment. I'll be really into it for a month, and then I'll fucking hate it.
Yeah.
And I'll either quit it or, I mean, the longest, and over the last probably decade, I think the longest job I had was a little over 3 years. And I've had so many jobs and I've hated every single one of them. So going into rehab, one of the biggest things that I identified was I need to set myself up with a career. At the Village, that was one of the biggest things. I started doing those refresher courses with that guy, Ed, who would come in from BOCES.
Yeah.
So that I could take the electrical course at BOCES, which is just recently finished up, and I put myself on a path to get myself a career. Now I seriously wake up every day wanting to go to work. I love my job. I love what I do. And it's opened up this whole new realm of existence where it's not Monday through Friday I'm oh, I gotta go to work today. It's every day I just get up And I'm like, man, I would choose to go do that if I had like several options on the table of stuff I'd be allowed to do if I could do anything. That'd be one of the things I would choose. And it's totally changed my perspective, going back to the whole nihilism thing. It's totally changed my perspective on life, because if you'd asked me 2 years ago or 3 years ago, what are you doing in life? What is the meaning of life? I would have been like, you get to go to work and hate your job for most of the time so that you can make money, so that you can pay bills and live in a house that you hate. Like, that would be my definition.
Yeah.
Today, I've set myself up through, tools that I've used through rehab and all of that, and stuff that's been made available to me based on just treatment and recovery, to have a career that I love doing. And I've noticed the same thing. People, like, one of the things that was cited when I was removed from this house was that, when we were voting on it, we kind of took into account that you're probably the most stable one in the house. So we knew that you'd land on your feet. And I was like, that's great. Thank you for that. Like, we have to kick someone out, so let's make sure it's a guy who's stable. Like, to have these accusations thrown at me, like, okay, so here's someone who's using, does not wake up every morning at 6:30, go to work until 5, and then after work do meetings or side projects or go hang out with their girlfriend. Like, that's not what an addict's doing.
No.
Like, an addict is sleeping till 2 in the afternoon because I was out late using, and then waking up in a dither of, like, what the fuck's going on, trying to find dope. Like, that would be an addict using. What I'm doing every day, enjoying what I do, and essentially finally loving my life for the first time in a decade and a half, I'd say, is just totally what I've been working towards for a long time now. And now that I'm seeing it come to fruition, I'm seeing people just become haters all of a sudden, because I think it's because they're not really living their best life.
No.
They're like in a point where it's like, man, I'd like to be there. So if I could maybe like cut him back a couple steps, maybe I could get to where he's at and we'll all be happy. It's a flawed sense of logic, but maybe that's what people are thinking. But yeah, I've noticed that.
It is. It's totally flawed. And people do. That's what they think. Instead of putting hard work in, working a full-time job while you were doing the collections and going to school at night to learn to become an electrician. And I think another issue too is people have this grandiose idea of what they want to do and love for a living.
Yeah, like,
I'm gonna be a rock star.
Yeah, that was
I'm gonna
me.
be a movie star.
That was me, absolutely.
It's like, no, what do you like doing? You like to help people. Oh, become a nurse.
Yeah.
What do you like to do? Oh, you like to fix problems and do wiring. And oh, I enjoy being an electrician. I enjoy being a plumber.
Like,
I
all my
enjoy
life,
being a carpenter.
I've, like, tinkered with stuff. I love just tinkering around. So an electrician is perfect. I go to work and I tinker all day long.
Like, being an electrician makes me want to throw up thinking about me.
You would
like,
probably hate it.
I don't want to do that.
It's not for you, but it's the perfect thing for me.
And you love it, yeah.
And there's so many things in this life. Like, I had a view of like, oh, there's only like a very small percentage of people who get to go to work and like it. And actually, James from the village, who started the clothing company, he was one of the people to kind of like get that out of my mind. He was like, dude, if you go to California, nobody is doing a job they hate. Out west, they're so far ahead of us as far as that goes. And like Buffalo, I get it's a smaller town, a smaller area, so it may be a little harder to find what you love, but you don't have to go to work and hate it. Like, if you do, I really suggest finding something that you like to do and put all of your energy into that, finding a way to make that happen. Yeah, it was a lot of hard work.
Absolutely.
When I started treatment, I was like, man, I would love to do that, but there's no fucking way it's going to happen. It's going to take me years. And it didn't. It did not take as long as I thought it would.
No, it took a lot of hard work.
Oh, a lot of hard work. But I'm in a place now where I'm reaping the benefits of putting in that work.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And it comes back to self-awareness again.
Yeah.
People don't have the self-awareness or the ability to look inward. And projection is such a real fucking thing, dude. It's so real. And people constantly do it. And that's what they do. They sit back and don't do anything to change their lives and hate on other people.
Well, it takes courage to look inward, too.
So much. Bravery, courage.
It's so easy to look outward and be like, whoa, Sean's life is fucked up. Look what he's doing every day. And not look at myself and be like, whoa, Matt's life is way more fucked up than Sean's. I better get to work. Because realistically, I can't do anything to change you. No. Nothing. The only thing I have control over, absolute control over in this world is me and what I do. So I can decide I'm going to look at what I have problems with, identify them, and then identify what I need to do to work on them and go to work. And that's how you create happiness in life. You will not create it by projecting your issues on other people or saying, oh, look at this jackass trying to do this. What a joke. That's not going to get you anywhere, and it's not going to make you any friends either.
And another saying, I love this quote, and I don't remember who said it, but he said, the harder I worked, the luckier I got.
Right.
And I find that to be so friggin' true. When anybody says you're so lucky, that means they're clueless to how much work has been put into something.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like even the connections that have fallen my way between Ann Constantino and with Horizon Health and just all these people that are opening doors for me to keep growing. I've been working my ass off. I've been putting in the work, and all of a sudden the opportunities come.
Yeah, you have to put yourself out there.
It's such a badass thing. No matter what you do, if you are 100% giving it your all, and that doesn't mean you can't take time for yourself and time to relax. Sure. But if you're doing that, things are going to happen, man.
Yeah. And it goes back to pulling yourself out of self-pity. Because you could easily sit around all day and be like, oh, my life's so terrible. I'm on DSS. That's the only way I get money to pay my rent. This is awful. Why did I get dealt this hand? Trust me, there's 100 million people in this world with a way worse hand dealt than you were. If you live in America, you're already in the top, like 8 billion people.
3%.
You know?
Yeah,
like,
something crazy like that.
It is. It's crazy. To be here, nuts. If you are sitting in America complaining about your life, you're not on the right path.
No. Yeah, self-pity is poison all the way through. There's nothing beneficial about it. Absolutely nothing.
Have you seen that TED Talk about self-compassion? I think they showed it like 1,000 times.
I don't think so, believe it or not. I don't know.
By Brené Brown.
Oh, I don't remember her she has a vulnerability one and then one on shame.
Didn't she do self-compassion, though?
I don't think. She probably talks about it, but
There's one TED Talk specifically about self-compassion, and it is by a lady, and maybe the name's wrong. But anyway, she talks about
Brené Brown's work very well.
Okay, so then maybe it's not her. Anyway, if you look it up on YouTube and you just type in TED Talk self-compassion, there's a lady who talks about it. And she talks about how she substituted self-pity for self-compassion, and essentially has to do with changing that internal voice that says, you suck, you effed this thing up, and this is a one more thing on this list of things that you've screwed up in your life. Taking that and exchanging it with a voice that says, you know what, everybody makes mistakes. And yeah, that wasn't great, but this is how I can improve on that next time. And I think changing self-compassion or self-pity to self-compassion, it was huge for me. It's hard to buy into, though.
It is.
Did you find
super
it there?
hard.
I think that one at the top is
Kristen Neff.
That's it.
Okay. The space between self-esteem and self-compassion.
Yes. So definitely, if you're out there in the netherworlds of the internet, check that out, because it helped me a lot. And it was hard, like I said, hard for me to buy into it, because at first it seems like you're being too easy on yourself, like you're being too much of a softie. But you really, think about some of the things that you've said to yourself in the past. If one of your friends said that to you, you guys wouldn't be friends anymore. I say this to my girlfriend all the time. Some of the things that she says about herself, if someone else said that about her to me, I'd probably punch him in the face.
It's huge. Just clinical psychologist I really love. I read a couple of his books, but he was talking about kind of, that self-care. And he said he was, counseling this grandma whose granddaughter committed suicide, and she couldn't stop blaming herself. I could have done something different.
Yeah.
I should have been able to do something. And she was just depressed and hating herself over it. And he talks about how when he asked her one day, do you tell your husband that he could have done more?
Oh.
That he could have said something and been there more for your granddaughter? And she says, no, of course not. I would never say that to him. And he said, why do you do it to yourself? Why do you hold yourself to those standards?
Right.
Why do you blame yourself? If you would never blame your husband for doing that, why are you blaming yourself? And that's such a huge thing.
Yeah.
Because we are so much harder on ourselves than we are other people.
That's a great example of that.
It is. And it's just would you tell that to somebody? Would you say that to your husband? No, would you say that to your girlfriend? Would you say that to your parents? Would you say that to your boyfriend, husband, wife, whatever, sister, brother? No, if you wouldn't, then why are you doing it, saying that to yourself?
Yeah. You can't be hard on yourself the way that most people are. I know I was. And,
me too.
And as soon as I examined that, just try to pay attention to it today, for the rest of the day, if you haven't ever done this in the past. And you will notice, when you mess something up, oh, you idiot. What is wrong with you? Just stuff like that. You really got to get rid of that.
Yeah, and the thing is if you say it enough, your ego will identify with it.
Oh, absolutely.
And you'll carry that.
Yep, subconsciously, for sure.
And that's something I've changed. I've had to change. If I spill over a cup of water, Sean, you're a fucking idiot. you dumbass.
Right.
Like, no, stop. Because that's literally what I thought at one point.
That's
right. Yeah. Self-talk. The space between self-esteem and self-compassion. Kristen Neff. Neff. Actually, I have to give that one a listen. I've actually never seen that one.
Yeah. Like I said, it took me a minute to buy into it, so I don't know what it is, if it's the way it's presented in that video, but it seems weird. The example probably that she gave could be better. I didn't identify with it, but
Okay.
you can make up your own example.
It's huge, and it gets you out of self-pity, and it motivates you. And, I think self-compassion also gives you such a huge space to, when you do screw up, to learn from it, as opposed to being mad at yourself.
Yeah.
Because that just keeps your eyes open. All right, I screwed up here. This is what I did wrong. Now how do I fix it? And you fix it. And bam, you're moving on.
Then you're growing.
It's a beautiful thing.
You are growing and showing. I just made that up.
It was great.
Trademark.
It was really good. Copyright Matthew Oliver in 2019. All right, bro.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Yeah.
I think we're done.
That wasn't a bad spare of the moment episode.
Oh,
thank you for coming on for the fifth time?
This is like my fifth time.
Fifth time?
Yeah, I'm a regular contributor, I think.
You absolutely are. You have been actually the guest that's been on here the most, too.
I am a celebrity.
And now that you're living here,
I'm just going to be on all the time. I'll be co-hosting.
Well,
let's not go that far.
Let's see who's out there, buddy. Actually, you just got voted out of the house.
We're done here.
We got your 150. Get out. All right. Thank you for listening. I love you guys. Matt, thanks for coming on as always.
Of course.
I always enjoy our conversations. So, peace out, y'all.
Wait a minute.
All right, people. Episode 31 is done. Love you guys. Thank you for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. Oxford Houses help people. Just like everything else, you get out of it what you put into it and what you want to get out of it. So if you work hard in an Oxford House and use it to your best abilities, you will get something great out of it. It will help you in your recovery, in your sobriety, and it'll keep you accountable. So that being said, I have some awesome episodes lined up over the next few weeks. One with my teacher from my recovery coach classes, recoverycoachuniversity.com. He's based out of Rochester. I will be doing one with him. Also, I'm sitting down with a psychiatrist this coming up Tuesday, and that's going to be awesome because I love sitting down with smart human beings, so I'm excited to have a conversation with her. And have a great week. room9podcast.com/contact to fill out a contact form, stay in touch, /support to help us out and keep this message going. And just share us on Facebook, share us on any social media platform you prefer to be on and share information on. And that is all. Love you guys. Peace out. Have a great week. Later.
Ooh, you better believe it. Wait a minute. You're Sean Cudahy. Wait a minute. You're Sean Cudahy.